What if everything we thought we knew about life was just a tiny ripple in an ocean far deeper than we can fathom? Imagine looking up at the night sky, at billions of stars piercing the black velvet of space, and suddenly feeling deep in your bones that we are not alone. Not in a sensational sci-fi way, but in a profound archetypal sense. What would it mean to the human psyche to discover life beyond Earth? Or perhaps, more hauntingly, what if there is nothing else out there, just us, suspended in this infinite silence? These questions strike a chord far beyond curiosity. They stir something ancient and universal within us. Carl Jung once said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Now extend that metaphor to civilizations. What happens when two forms of life, possibly evolved under entirely different conditions, collide in awareness? The human psyche, according to Jung, thrives on integration, on making the unconscious conscious. The discovery of alien life would be the ultimate confrontation with the other, the unknown, the shadow that has long loomed at the edge of our collective myths and dreams. Throughout history, humanity has projected its fears, hopes, and gods into the heavens. Jung observed that UFO phenomena weren't merely material sightings, but psychic projections. A collective yearning for contact, for something beyond ourselves. If life were found out there, it wouldn't just reshape science. It would rupture the symbolic architecture of our inner world. We'd be forced to redefine what it means to be human, not through the lens of dominance, but through relation, reflection, and reimagination. And what if we found nothing? Would that void crush our collective spirit? Or would it call us inward, compelling us to find meaning not in outer space, but in inner space? Jung believed that the cosmos lives within us as much as we live within the cosmos. The absence of other life could become the ultimate mirror, urging us to confront our isolation, our longing, and our purpose with unprecedented honesty. This is not just a cosmic question, it is a psychological reckoning. Because whether life is found beyond Earth or not, the real transformation will happen inside us. The archetype of the stranger, the divine messenger, the trickster from the stars, these are not just myths. They are psychic patterns etched into our collective unconscious, waiting for a moment to awaken. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't speculation. It's a journey into the very core of our being. We'll explore how the discovery or the eternal absence of extraterrestrial life could unravel and reshape the deepest layers of human consciousness, how it could activate collective archetypes, challenge our shadow, and invite us into an unprecedented stage of individuation, not just as individuals, but as a species. And if you've ever looked up at the stars and felt something stirring, some inexplicable pull or quiet question that refuses to leave, this story is yours. Because in this silence between worlds, there is a voice, and it's calling us to listen, not only with our minds, but with our souls. So before you scroll away or click on something else, consider this. What if the truth isn't out there or in here, but in the space between? Keep watching. What you're about to hear might just shift the axis of how you see the universe and yourself forever. Since the dawn of consciousness, humanity has been haunted by a question it cannot answer but cannot ignore. Are we alone? This question does not merely stem from scientific inquiry. It rises from the very architecture of the psyche. Jung believed that all human beings are born with a collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of symbols, myths, and instincts that transcend time and culture. And among those shared images lies the archetype of the visitor, the unknown being who arrives from beyond, bringing change, truth, or destruction. Whether angel or alien, the psychic imprint is the same, a force that disrupts the known world and forces transformation. The idea of extraterrestrial life activates this ancient archetype, not in a movie script, but in the soul of every person who dares to contemplate the stars. Imagine waking up one morning to the global announcement that life has been discovered on a distant planet. In that instant, everything we assumed about our uniqueness would collapse. Religions would stagger under the weight of this new presence. Philosophies would be questioned, revised, rewritten, but the deepest shift would be internal. For Jung, crises are invitations to wholeness. The ego, the small controlled self we present to the world, would be shattered by the vastness of such a truth. In its place, we would be called to integrate a new self, one that includes the alien, not as enemy or idol, but as part of the greater pattern of life, a cosmic mirror revealing what we have denied or forgotten within ourselves. Yet, even more unsettling is the idea that we are utterly alone, that after billions of years, countless galaxies, and infinite possibilities, Earth is the only cradle of life. This solitude is not merely physical, it becomes existential. And within that emptiness, the unconscious begins to speak. Jung taught that the void is never empty, it is pregnant with meaning. In the absence of contact, we are faced with a truth we cannot outrun. We must become the meaning makers, the myth bearers, the authors of a purpose that transcends biology. Isolation in Jungian thought is the forge of individuation, the sacred process of becoming whole. If no voice ever calls from the stars, it is perhaps because the call is meant to come from within. The archetype of the lost child emerges, a humanity adrift in the cosmos, searching not just for others, but for itself. And in that search, something alchemical occurs. We begin to reflect, to mature, to grow. No longer can we lean on the illusion of superiority, of destiny written in the stars. We must write it ourselves in the language of humility, imagination, and courage. The absence of alien life forces us to look inward, to confront the parts of ourselves we projected onto distant planets, the shadow, the divine, the monstrous, the unknown. But whether the universe is teeming with life or eerily silent, both truths lead us to the same threshold, transformation. Jung spoke of the individuation process as the path to uniting all opposites within the psyche, the alien and the human, the known and the mysterious, the conscious and the unconscious. This cosmic question, are we alone, is simply the outer reflection of an inner quest. Who am I? What am I becoming? The search for life among the stars is inseparable from the search for meaning within. Children born after such a discovery, or such a confirmation of solitude, will grow up in a world where the human identity is redefined. Their myths, their dreams, even their language will evolve. Jung would remind us that every cultural shift is preceded by a shift in symbols. The hero, the explorer, the wise old man, these will take on new faces, perhaps with alien eyes, or perhaps, more challengingly, with no eyes at all, forcing us to see ourselves without reflection. This is the psychological revolution we must be prepared for, not just with telescopes, but with soul work. And that soul work begins now. Because as we develop artificial intelligence, travel farther into space, and peer deeper into quantum fields, we are not merely gathering data. We are awakening symbols. The psyche is not passive in the face of discovery. It is actively participating, projecting, interpreting. Jung would say, we are not discovering the universe, we are discovering ourselves through it. Whether we encounter extraterrestrial life or not, the psychological implications are already here. They live in our art, our fears, our longing, and our dreams. So, what are we really searching for? Perhaps not alien civilizations, but a deeper connection to the mystery that gave birth to both stars and souls. Perhaps we are not looking for others out there, but for permission to evolve, psychologically, spiritually, collectively, because to face the vastness of the universe is to face the vastness of our unconscious. And that is the true frontier, not Mars, not Proxima Centauri, but the inner cosmos of the human heart. In the end, the question of alien life is not about finding something new, it is about remembering something ancient, that we are part of a greater pattern, a living myth, unfolding in real time. Carl Jung didn't give us answers, he gave us symbols, tools, maps for exploring the unknown. And as we drift through this mysterious universe, maybe that's what we need most. Not certainty, but courage. The courage to look up at the stars and say, whatever is out there, I am ready to meet it, not with fear, but with wonder. From the earliest myths whispered around firelight, humans have told stories of beings from the skies, gods, spirits, messengers of destiny. These were never just figments of imagination. They were symbolic expressions of the psyche attempting to name the unknown. Carl Jung understood that these symbols arise from the collective unconscious, the shared well of imagery that transcends individual experience. When we look to the stars and wonder about other life, we're not simply curious. We are activating an ancient psychological archetype, the search for the other, the unseen force that might help us complete what we feel is missing within. This yearning for contact, whether divine or extraterrestrial, reflects a deep-seated need for wholeness. In Jungian terms, it is the longing for individuation, the integration of opposites within the self. The alien becomes the projection of what we do not yet understand in ourselves. It represents mystery, potential, fear, and evolution. Whether that alien is truly out there or simply a psychic image, it functions as a powerful mirror. And the question becomes, what are we truly trying to see reflected back at us from the void of space? Jung believed that what we reject, suppress, or fear becomes the shadow, the darker side of the psyche. Our obsession with alien life often carries this shadow quality. We imagine beings that are superior, threatening, watching, invading. In truth, these reflect our own unconscious fears of being powerless, insignificant, or worse, deeply flawed. The alien other becomes a vessel into which we pour the parts of ourselves we are not yet willing to face. So, in asking, are we alone? We are also asking, can I face my own unknown? Yet this search isn't a sign of weakness. It is the beginning of transformation. To ask questions that cannot be answered with certainty is to step into the mystery. Jung didn't fear the unknown. He taught us that true psychological growth comes from confronting it. By projecting our deepest yearnings into the cosmos, we are creating the very conditions necessary to evolve. not biologically, but symbolically. The cosmos becomes a symbolic stage where our inner drama unfolds. And on that stage, the alien is not an intruder. It is a part of us waiting to be understood. If we ever discover intelligent life, it will not be an end to mystery, but the beginning of a new myth. Just as Copernicus displaced Earth from the center of the universe, alien contact would displace humanity from the center of meaning. It would force us to redefine who we are, not as the pinnacle of creation, but as one of many actors in a cosmic story. But Jung would urge us to go deeper. This redefinition wouldn't merely reshape history, it would rewrite the soul's map. And the soul, as he saw it, is not threatened by truth, it is completed by it. Imagine the moment humanity receives undeniable confirmation of intelligent life beyond Earth. Headlines explode, crowds erupt, governments scramble, but beneath all the noise, something quieter, far more profound, begins to stir within each of us. The collapse of what we thought we knew. Jung called this an archetypal dissolution, a moment when the core symbols holding up our worldview lose their grounding, and in that symbolic vacuum, the most feared and most necessary element of all emerges, the unknown. This other we now know exists isn't just an alien being, it's a living archetype. It can wear many masks within the psyche: God, demon, savior, destroyer. Jung believed that whenever we face the radically unfamiliar, the psyche projects what it hasn't yet integrated. That's why the alien might be seen as a threat or a redeemer, not for what it is, but for what it reflects back to us. Our collective reaction won't be rational, it will be mythic. And in that mirror, we'll see our wounds, our fears, and our deepest longing. Religions may fracture or evolve. Doctrines of creation will be forced to face new possibilities. But more powerful than any change to external systems will be the change within our symbolic language. Our ideas of God, soul, and purpose will begin to dissolve and reform. Jung taught that symbols never truly die. They transform. And this new symbol, contact, will demand that humanity step out of its spiritual adolescence and into a more conscious relationship with its own evolution. But what if the universe stays silent? What if, after all our searching, we hear nothing? That silence might echo louder than any contact. It could crush us with the weight of cosmic loneliness or awaken something sacred. Jung believed that emptiness was never truly empty. It's fertile with potential. In silence, the self begins to speak, and when nothing external distracts us, we're finally forced to listen inward. If we're alone, then every human life becomes unimaginably precious. We are not one among many. We are the lone keepers of the spark of awareness. And maybe, just maybe, we are the aliens, the improbable ones, the wanderers with the burden and the blessing of consciousness. In that version of reality, the journey is not to other planets, but into the soul. The mission is not to conquer the stars, but to integrate the self. And perhaps, in the end, that is the most extraordinary quest we could ever undertake. Carl Jung taught that the ultimate goal of life is not perfection, but wholeness. This process, called individuation, is the gradual integration of all aspects of the psyche, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, human and archetypal, into a unified self. The question of alien life, whether answered or not, is a modern mythic symbol that accelerates this very process. When we gaze at the stars and ask, who else is out there? we are unconsciously asking, what parts of me have I yet to meet? The encounter with the unknown, be it a being from another world or a realization from within, forces us to confront everything we've repressed or forgotten. Jung believed that such encounters are not to be feared but embraced, because the unknown is always a carrier of transformation. The alien, in this sense, is not something outside of us. It is a part of the psyche that has not yet been named, and to name it is to reclaim it. To integrate it is to evolve. If contact were to occur, the immediate shock would give way to something deeper, reflection, not just on what they are, but what we are. Our concepts of self, identity, morality, and soul would no longer be shaped in isolation. We would have to redefine humanity not as an isolated species, but as one thread in a much vaster cosmic tapestry. And with that realization comes responsibility, not just toward Earth, but toward existence itself. But individuation isn't dependent on contact. Even if the universe remains silent, the symbol still works. The absence of the other becomes a blank canvas upon which we project our fears, dreams, and questions. That silence forces us inward toward the deepest structures of the self. It is in solitude, Jung said, that the soul matures. And in this cosmic solitude, humanity may finally realize that the greatest frontier is not interstellar, but interior. This realization is not a retreat from ambition. It's an awakening to meaning. The more we search for others, the more we're compelled to ask who we truly are. And that is the heart of individuation, to make the unconscious conscious, to bring light to the parts of us we've ignored or denied. Whether life is discovered or not, the journey into the stars becomes a sacred metaphor for the journey into the soul. A call not to conquer, but to become whole. Every civilization lives by its myths. They are not just stories. We breathe through them. They tell us who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. Jung believed that myths arise spontaneously from the collective unconscious. When one era collapses, a new myth must emerge to guide the soul of the people. And the possibility of extraterrestrial life is more than a scientific question. It is the embryo of a new myth, ready to reshape the collective psyche of the world. Imagine children growing up in a world where contact with another intelligent species is a historical fact. Their sense of human will be different. Their symbols of heroism, wisdom, and purpose will evolve. Jung wrote that the archetypes do not disappear. They take on new faces. The hero might now be the peacemaker between worlds. The wise old man might be both human and alien. Even the trickster, so central in mythology, might appear as a being who tests our assumptions, our ethics, our readiness to evolve. And if no contact ever comes, the myth still lives. The silence itself becomes sacred. The absence of the other creates space for humanity to elevate its own role in the universe, not out of arrogance, but out of reverence. In Jungian terms, we become the carriers of the divine archetype, the custodians of consciousness. We are not waiting to be discovered. We are being asked to discover ourselves. In this version of the myth, Earth is not abandoned, it is entrusted. As our myths shift, so do our values. No longer can we live as if the human story is disconnected from the cosmos. Whether in science, religion, or art, the psychological hunger for connection will become central. Jung predicted this shift long ago. The modern individual, he said, would face a spiritual crisis, a loss of meaning, unless something emerged to unify the inner and outer worlds. The cosmic question is that unifying force. It binds the heavens to the soul. And so, a new story begins to unfold. Not one of domination, but of integration. Not a conquest of space, but a deep listening. This myth doesn't ask us to abandon our roots, but to expand them beyond national, cultural, or even planetary identities. It asks us to step into a larger self, to see the earth not as a battlefield, but as a sacred starting point in an ongoing psychological awakening. A myth where the alien is not the enemy, but the invitation. So here we are, standing at the edge of the known, peering into a cosmic abyss that echoes back only what we project into it. Whether we one day meet life from beyond the stars or not, the question itself has already begun to change us. It has stirred the ancient waters of the unconscious. It has awakened the archetypes that lie dormant in every one of us. Jung would say that we are not just exploring the universe, we are reactivating the soul's forgotten language. And in that language, silence speaks just as loudly as contact. Because, in truth, we are not waiting for a signal from another planet. We are waiting for a signal from within, a recognition, a remembering, a reorientation of the self toward something greater. The alien, the unknown, the void. They are not meant to terrify us. They are invitations to evolve, to integrate, to finally take responsibility for our consciousness, not as a byproduct of biology, but as a sacred task in a living cosmos. In this light, every question we ask about the stars becomes a mirror. Are we alone? Reflects, do I truly know myself? Is there someone out there? Becomes, have I listened to the one inside? The myth of alien life is not an escape. It is a sacred pressure pushing us inward, pressing us to become whole, pressing us to face the truth that whether we are surrounded by life or entirely alone, the meaning of it all still begins and ends within. And what if we are alone? What if this pale blue dot is the only place where matter has awakened to itself, where spirit and flesh have learned to dream? Then the responsibility is staggering, but also sublime, because it means that the universe entrusted us with awareness, and we, in turn, must entrust ourselves with becoming worthy of it, not through fear, not through control, but through transformation. So as we continue to look up at the stars, let us also look inward with the same wonder, the same curiosity, the same humility. Because the universe is not just out there, it's in here. And perhaps the most profound form of contact is not with something extraterrestrial, but with a deeper version of ourselves that has been waiting quietly in the silence between worlds. All along, we believed we were searching the stars for signs of life, when in truth, we've been searching for signs of ourselves. This entire journey, this cosmic longing, has been less about discovery and more about remembrance, not of facts or origins, but of a truth far more intimate, that the unknown has always lived within us. Whether we find life among the galaxies or silence in the void, we've already found something sacred, the mirror of the universe held up to the human soul. Carl Jung reminded us that the symbols we chase externally are often reflections of inner realities waiting to be integrated. The alien, the silence, the infinite, all of it echoes the archetypes that shape our psyche. What we fear out there is often what we've disowned in here. And yet, it's only by confronting those shadows that we evolve. Only by meeting the stranger, whether in the stars or in our own unconscious, do we awaken to our wholeness. So maybe the real question has never been, is there life out there? maybe the real question is, are we truly alive in here? Are we conscious of the miracle of our existence, the fragility of our awareness, the responsibility that comes with it? The cosmos may or may not hold others like us, but it has already given us the gift of wonder. And wonder is not a destination. It's a doorway to growth, to change, to meaning. And meaning is what the human soul craves above all else. It is what makes us build telescopes and write myths and dare to believe in something greater. So as you move on from this video, don't just look up, look deeper. Let this be more than just information. Let it be initiation, a moment where something ancient inside you stirs and stays. Because whether we are surrounded by cosmic neighbors or destined to walk this universe alone, the most profound encounter we can have is with the self. If this journey resonated with you, if it sparked a question, a feeling, or even a moment of stillness, then this space was made for you. Subscribe to the channel, not just to follow, but to belong to a community of seekers, thinkers, and explorers of the soul. Like the video if it moved you, and share your reflections in the comments. I read each one, because this isn't just content. It's conversation, it's connection. And who knows, the question that's been echoing through your mind might be the very one someone else is waiting to hear.